So, where I currently work, the discussion I get every time is Vancouver is very expensive. I'm moving to Alberta. And just when I was surfing YouTube, I saw this video and it's titled Vancouver housing might actually become affordable now. I almost laughed, but I thought, let's give it a chance first. Let's see what the person has to say. Now, I'm going to keep an open mind while watching this video. I'm not going to be stopping it to criticize or nothing like that. No, I want to hear them because I want Vancouver to be affordable, but it's a little bit laughable when you read a title like this. Let's get to it.
Vancouver, Canada is famous in the transit world for its SkyTrain, trolley buses, sea buses, and well, that's about it. But what it is also famous for outside of the transit world is insane housing prices. I remember growing up in the region and watching as from when I started school to when I graduated, housing prices went from high to into the stratosphere. Those high prices meant a lot of people, including myself, didn't see a future in Vancouver, where houses and apartments were just going to get more expensive year over year. It's really an unfortunate black eye for what is one of the best city regions in the Americas. You see, while Vancouver is one of North America's, if not the world's most famous cities for its transit-oriented development, it's also the birthplace of the tall and sprawl model so common in Canadian cities, where you have high-rise towers near a transit station surrounded by single-family homes a couple blocks away. Now, I will say the idea that new townhomes and mid-rise development don't exist in Vancouver or Toronto is just ridiculous, and they actually are pretty common. There certainly isn't enough of this development to augment the massive number of condo towers we've built. And it's pretty clear that we shouldn't have a station, towers, and then single-family homes. There should be a gradual transition from extremely high density to lower density, with things like mid-rise buildings, duplexes and triplexes, and then single-family homes at the very edge. That and the real regional extent of the SkyTrain network is why British Columbia's, that is the province that Vancouver is located in, new housing policy is so absolutely game-changing and one of the best in the English-speaking world. Seriously, this policy is going to transform Vancouver and Metro Vancouver. So
I've been hearing the policy is actually bullshit. I mean, I don't even know what the policy is. I've just heard people make their own opinion and share it on TikTok. But people are always going to say something, so I'm very interested to hear what the policy actually is.
Let's talk about it in this very special edition of RM Housing plus Transit.
I really pray the housing becomes affordable.
Hi there, if you're new, I'm Reese and I'm from Vancouver. I make videos about transit and cities around the world. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more like it. Vancouver SkyTrain network is easily one of the most impressive rapid transit systems in North America. It only started construction in 1986 and now stretches roughly 80 kilometers with 53 stations. The network is fast, with average speeds well over 30 kilometers per hour, regional in scope, with reach that goes into the cities surrounding Vancouver instead of just Vancouver itself, and incredibly frequent, with trains coming every couple of minutes, even until late at night. All made possible by the sleek automated trains that the system has run from the very beginning. If you want to tour around the entire network, not nearly enough people have seen the video I did a couple years back where I tour around the whole city, so you should check that out. And SkyTrain is getting a lot bigger thanks to two major extension programs currently happening, including one that will extend the Millennium Line down the Broadway corridor through the dense regional core, and another that will extend the longest line, the Expo Line, further out into Surrey and Langley on an entirely elevated extension. And those extensions will take the network's total length to over 100 kilometers and add over 10 new stations. At the same time, capacity is being expanded on the network with a massive order for several hundred cars from Alstom so transit can start running 5-car SkyTrains. I actually talked about one of those big SkyTrain extensions in a previous video, so if you're interested in that, check it out here. Now obviously Metro Vancouver is famous for its existing transit-oriented development, or TOD. And while it is great at most major development nodes, besides Metrotown, which is just crazy, tons of development there tends to be a couple large developments around the station and then a pretty quick fall off into single-family homes and other land uses. The scale and quality of the development tend to still be pretty impressive, but it's far from ideal. Furthermore, the approach to development is piecemeal, with individual projects needing to be approved one by one, and that means it's slow and it leads to
I want to hear the new development policies though.
expensive housing. That's why BC's new policy is game-changing and should set the pace for cities across Canada and probably North America. The new law sees the province overruling cities, which under the Canadian system of government they can absolutely do, to allow more density around SkyTrain stations on mixed and residentially zoned lots. Suddenly, developers will be able to build at minimum a 20-story tower on any piece of land within 200 meters of a station, a 12-story building within 200 to 400 meters, and at a very minimum 8-story buildings for everything between 400 and 800 meters from a station, all as of right. This will mean that basically all land within a 15-minute walk of a SkyTrain station is now basically zoned for much higher density. And I say 15 minutes, not 10, because while 800 meters is typically the 10-minute walking time, there's not always a direct street. And now that all of this density is allowed, it will come, because at prices as high as Vancouver's, not building is just not an option.
So does it mean it's going to take away the time? Because I saw a video, the one guy who's I think a big guy in construction in Vancouver. I don't know the right words to use, but he said one of the major challenges they face with building all these apartments is bureaucracy and also the waiting times to get approval and license to start building. So now that they've brought out these policies, does it mean you don't have to wait for years and years to get approval? Because that's the major problem. That's the major challenge. And I think a study, it might have been done by Pierre Poilievre. He said Vancouver bureaucracy alone costs $1 million. Now, keep in mind, an average house price in Vancouver is $1.5 million. It used to be 1.3. I think as of today, it's $1.5 million. And bureaucracy alone is $1 million, which means you can buy 2 other houses with the cost of bureaucracy, which is crazy to me. So if this policy, I mean, it looks good on paper, but we like to see the implementation still.
At the same time, floor area ratios will taper from 5 at the station down to 3 on the outer circle of the development circle as you travel out, meaning that the highest densities are allowed around the station. Interestingly, this policy is also going to apply to Metro Vancouver's bus exchanges, which tend to be big loops where a ton of different bus services converge. There's usually multiple frequent services. They tend to be pretty nice with bike storage and lots of shelter, and so these will become their own transit hubs, albeit without the condo towers. Instead, the development will kind of start at medium density around bus exchanges. Now, there are a lot of reasons this is great. For one, the policy allows the highest densities right next to the station, which is logical. And even better, it acknowledges the value of bus exchanges, which could hopefully get new amenities and perhaps enclosure as part of all of the new density coming to the areas around them. The way many bus terminals in Toronto have nicer amenities and perhaps even washrooms. The second awesome thing is that simply by allowing this circle of density around stations that sort of tapers off as you travel outwards, I think you'll actually end up with some of the nicest and most pleasant neighborhoods in Canada, with significant density and a lot of different building types. All of that without the jarring transition from tower to single family home. It'll be a more consistent level of density, and I think that's going to be really nice. Better yet, it's going to mean that suburban places like Surrey and Langley are going to be forced to allow high density, not just directly next to their new SkyTrain stations, but also on the surrounding blocks. But also the city of Vancouver, which is more NIMBY than a lot of the region and is already being outclassed by suburbs like Burnaby for their crazy transit-oriented developments. So much so that Burnaby is actually soon going to have the tallest tower in British Columbia, not the city of Vancouver. Even more interesting is that the rules will apply to other cities in BC, albeit only the bus exchange part since there aren't other rail systems in BC besides SkyTrain. Now, I've mentioned a lot of the implications of this policy for density, neighborhoods, and housing, but it also has huge implications for transit that get me super excited. For one, denser neighborhoods are obviously going to be much worse for people to drive in, and so alternative means of transportation, walking, cycling, and transit are going to get an instantaneous boost. At the same time, this consistent concentration of densities around stations will drive new amenities like shops and services so that people kind of effectively get to live in their own 15-minute cities near SkyTrain stations. Better yet, the developments are going to have far less parking because none of them will have parking minimums within this 800-meter circular transit paradise zone, which is fantastic because not only will it mean less cars, but it will also mean more affordable development and housing. By further solidifying and concentrating development around station areas, and that's not just on the adjacent block, but within 800 meters, It will also mean that over time in Metro Vancouver, not only will a lot of people be living near stations, but a lot of their destinations will also be relocated to stations where a lot of people are. All of this is going to funnel way more people onto TransLink services, especially buses, thanks to the lack of parking minimums and the fact that bus exchanges are included. And that means that TransLink needs to build a lot. To serve all of this new density, there should be new trolley routes, rapid bus lines, and express bus lines that operate like rapid transit over highways using HOV lanes. They're actually fantastic, and I made a video about them up here. On the SkyTrain side, there's a lot too, because many stations will need to be expanded to handle increased passenger numbers, and to better integrate with their new, denser communities. At the same time, all of the new density is going to cement the importance of those certain locations where stations are today. We should also probably be planning for 3-car trains on the Canada line as soon as possible, as well as 6-car trains on the Expo and Millennium lines. Not to mention more SkyTrain lines to complement the existing network down the road, such as a high-speed, high-capacity BART-like line connecting Surrey, Vancouver, and the various high-density transit-oriented development nodes along the way. I actually talked about this idea in my recent What I Would Build in Vancouver video, so check that out if you're interested. Fortunately, I think TransLink is actually one of, if not the best transit agency in North America, so I think they can build. In a sort of polar opposite way to other transit agencies in North America, TransLink sort of loves trying new things, from better wayfinding to fare payment via wristband and complete station rebuilds. All of that work rebuilding some of the network's busiest stations to increase capacity and also just make the stations nicer, as well as adding entrances, is going to be invaluable for all of the work that is obviously going to come expanding existing stations that are going to get much busier with all of this new density. Basically, all of the work that's gone in to upgrade stations like Joyce Collingwood, Metro Town, Commercial Broadway over the last decade or so, that's just going to need to continue to ramp up into the future as more stations need similar types of work. At the same time, TransLink is also building expansions to the rapid transit network at semi-reasonable prices, at least compared to other cities in North America, including with the shallow cut-and-cover station Broadway subway extension and the fully elevated suburban extension to Surrey and Langley. The good thing is that so often I talk about how to bring down the cost for building transit, you need to consistently be building transit. And Metro Vancouver has done this. There have been major new SkyTrain projects every decade since SkyTrain was created. What's better is that since now TransLink is actually doing its own housing developments to fund transit improvements and expansion, they will benefit from this policy by enabling them to more easily build large transit-oriented developments near their stations. This means that the benefit of the mass upzoning won't entirely be taken by private developers, and instead TransLink can capture some of that value and funnel it back into the system, which will be definitely needed. Suffice to say, I'm elated because Metro Vancouver is going to try to tackle one of its biggest problems with one of its biggest assets, the transit network, and in particular SkyTrain. And I think there's a lot more transit to come. Thanks for watching.
Okay. That was a pretty good video. Yeah, that was a very good video. Well explained. But until I see it, a lot of times it's easy when we see all these things on paper. I don't even know when it's going to be implemented because Canadian housing, I think it's down 19%. Already, so it's a thing of urgency. It's a thing of getting more houses and also making housing affordable. I can't talk anymore. And also making houses affordable for people living in Canada right now. Anyways, let me know what you think about that. And people say if they build more houses, then the cost is going to come down because it's going to be high availability and low demand. I don't know about all of that. We can speculate, give all this theory and give all these numbers. But let's do it first, yeah? Let's do it first. Anyways, that was a good video. As always, I'll put the link to the channel in the description so you can go check him out. That being said, smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.